The entire gym smelled like money. Glass walls reflected the golden sunlight of the afternoon. Brand new machines gleamed like trophies, and imported punching bags swung lightly in the corners. The place wasn't for just anyone. Monthly fees were higher than 3 months of minimum wage. Only athletes of elite status, influencers, or people with important last names trained there. Suddenly, the revolving door opened, and for everyone's surprise, a girl walked in. Her steps were hesitant but firm. Her sneakers were worn out, her sweatpants faded, and she carried an old backpack with frayed straps. Her hair was tied up without much care, and she looked around with curiosity mixed with nervousness. The sound of weights clanging stopped. The rhythm of gloves hitting punching bags fell silent. Dozens of eyes turned toward her. It was as if someone had pressed the pause button. Whispers spread across the room. "Who's that?" murmured one of the athletes. "Must be lost. No way she belongs here," another replied with a laugh. Near the main ring stood the star of the gym, the reigning champion. Known not only for her victories, but also for her arrogance, she smirked and raised her voice so everyone could hear. "Well, well, did someone take a wrong turn on the way to the community center?" Laughter erupted, bouncing off the mirrored walls. The girl paused, inhaled deeply, and walked straight to the reception desk. She pulled a folded piece of paper from her backpack and said with a calm but firm tone, "Excuse me, is this where the training scholarship program works?" The room froze. The word scholarship echoed like an explosion in that luxury environment. Some laughed harder, but the girl didn't lower her head. She tightened her grip on the paper, straightened her posture, and repeated, even more firmly, "The address is correct. I'm sure this is the place." Her eyes didn't ask for pity. They didn't beg for permission. They burned with a flame no one there could yet understand. And that was the exact moment everything began to change. The uncomfortable silence lingered in the air until the receptionist finally confirmed, her voice a little shaky, "Yes, this is the right place. The scholarship program exists, and her name is on the approved list." A wave of murmurs spread through the gym. Some people gasped, others exchanged looks of disbelief. Could it really be true that this girl with her old shoes and faded clothes was allowed to train in such an exclusive space? The champion didn't waste the chance. She threw her head back and laughed loudly, her voice echoing across the mirrored walls. "You all heard that? This is unbelievable. The boss really wants to turn my gym into a charity project." Some laughed along, others looked down, uncomfortable but unwilling to intervene. No one wanted to challenge the champion, who carried not only titles but also the influence of millions of followers and powerful sponsors. Her word weighed more than anyone else's. The girl, however, stayed firm. She put the paper back in her backpack and quietly observed the space around her. The shining bags, the ring, the weight racks. Every detail looked like a dream she had fought hard to reach. The champion stepped closer, flanked by two friends who laughed at every word she said. Her voice turned sharp, dripping with sarcasm. "Listen, newbie, you might be on the list, but that doesn't mean you belong here. This place isn't made for people like you." The words hit hard. The room froze. All eyes fell on the girl, waiting for her to break down, to walk away in tears. But she didn't. She lifted her chin and locked eyes with the champion. "If the program exists, it's because someone believed I deserve this chance," she replied, her voice steady. Gasps swept through the gym. It was unexpected, a simple but powerful response that shook the room. The champion blinked in disbelief, then burst out laughing, her smirk widening. "Deserve? Fine, then prove it." She leaned in closer, her voice dripping with arrogance. "Listen, newbie, You might be on the list, but that doesn't mean you belong here. This place isn't made for people like you." The words hit hard. The room froze. All eyes fell on the girl, waiting for her to break down, to walk away in tears. But she didn't. She lifted her chin and locked eyes with the champion. "If the program exists, it's because someone believed I deserve this chance," she replied, her voice steady. Gasps swept through the gym. It was unexpected, a simple but powerful response that shook the room. The champion blinked in disbelief, then burst out laughing, her smirk widening. "Deserve? Fine, then prove it." She leaned in closer, her voice dripping with arrogance. "Listen, newbie, you might be on the list, but that doesn't mean you belong here. This place isn't made for people like you." The crowd erupted in whispers. Some pulled out their phones, ready to capture every second. The atmosphere shifted from ridicule to anticipation. The girl inhaled deeply, fingers brushing the straps of her backpack as if drawing strength from her past. Then she looked straight at the champion and said, "I accept." The gym fell into silence so deep that the hum of a treadmill in the corner became the only sound. The champion's smirk returned. "Perfect. This is going to be fun." And with that, the trap was set. The champion's challenge spread like wildfire. What had started as a mocking joke quickly turned into the main event of the evening. People left their treadmills and weight benches, gathering around the ring. Phones were out, cameras rolling. Everyone wanted a front row seat to watch what they thought would be
a massacre. The champion thrived on the attention. With a wide grin, she pulled out her phone and started recording herself for her followers. "Guys, you won't believe what's happening. Some random girl thinks she can fight me. Stay tuned, this is going to be quick." Comments poured in instantly. "Crush her. Show her who's queen. This won't last a round." Meanwhile, the girl remained quiet. She didn't look at the phones, didn't flinch at the laughter. Her eyes were fixed on the ring, her breathing steady. Sensing the tension, Tom, the veteran trainer and owner of the gym, stepped forward. His voice was firm, cutting through the noise. 3 rounds, training gloves, no bets, no live streams, just sparring. The champion smirked, rolling her eyes. "Relax, Tom. It won't even get past round 1. The crowd laughed, some cheering, others whispering. Yet a subtle shift had begun. Among the noise, a few people noticed the calmness of the girl. It wasn't the blank stare of someone out of place. It was something sharper, something dangerous. The girl finally spoke, her voice steady, almost serene. "I accept the rules. I only want the chance to show I belong here." Tom studied her closely, and a chill ran down his spine. He had seen this look before, the look of someone who wasn't stepping into a ring for fun, but for something much deeper. The gym grew louder, everyone crowding closer. The ring was no longer just a training space. It had become a stage. On one side, a champion basking in arrogance. On the other, a quiet challenger carrying the weight of survival. The match was set. The audience expected humiliation. But the girl knew this was her moment. The ring was surrounded. Dozens of eyes locked on the 2 women, waiting for the show to begin. On one side, the champion stretched, rolled her shoulders, and cracked her neck with exaggerated confidence. She wanted to make sure everyone saw her as untouchable. On the other side, the girl slid her hands into a pair of oversized, worn-out gloves. They were loose, clearly borrowed, but she adjusted them carefully, as if they belonged to her. Her movements were calm, deliberate. She wasn't smiling, wasn't trembling, just focused. The champion couldn't resist more taunts, Back out while you still can, rookie. I don't want to be sued for hurting you." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Phones zoomed in, ready to capture the moment the girl broke down and begged to quit. That was what everyone expected. But instead, the girl straightened her back, looked directly at the champion, and spoke in a steady voice that carried across the gym. "I accept." The laughter stopped. The air grew heavy. For a few seconds, all anyone could hear was the distant hum of a treadmill. Tom, standing by the ropes, felt his chest tighten. There was no hesitation in the girl's tone, no trace of fear in her body language. He'd seen champions with less conviction than this. The champion, annoyed by the silence, raised her voice again. "Perfect! Let's give everyone a show." The trap had been set, the crowd gathered, the cameras rolling. But with those two simple words, "I accept," the girl had already claimed her first victory. She had chosen courage over humiliation, and that choice would change everything. While the champion strutted around, bragging loudly and entertaining her followers, the girl sat quietly on a bench near the corner of the ring. She didn't look shaken. She didn't even seem distracted. Her silence was heavier than the noise around her. Tom, the veteran trainer, walked over and sat down beside her. His eyes narrowed, trying to understand what he was seeing. "Tell me something," he said softly. "Why did you accept her challenge? You know who she is. She's dangerous. She's beaten professionals." The girl's gaze drifted away for a moment, as if her mind had traveled far beyond that gym. She drew in a deep breath, and when she spoke, her voice carried both weight and calm. Because this isn't the first time someone has tried to humiliate me. I've been fighting all my life." Tom stayed silent, listening. She went on. "I grew up in a place where nothing came easy. While other kids played, I worked, cleaning houses, selling food with my mom on the street, and when there was nothing left, I fought. Not for fun, not for sport. I fought because it was the only way to survive." Her words weren't dramatic. They were matter-of-fact, like scars retold through memory. Tom leaned forward, his eyes widening. "You mean you fought before?" The girl nodded. "Not here. Not with bright lights or shiny rings, but in alleys, backyards."
"Anywhere I had to. I fought to protect my brother, to put food on the table. Every fight I won meant one more week of survival for my family." The weight of her confessions settled over him. Suddenly, her calmness made sense. She wasn't fearless because she didn't understand the risk. She was fearless because she had already faced worse. Tom's voice dropped to a whisper. "She's a professional. She has years of training, sponsors, technique. What do you have that she doesn't?" The girl turned her head and looked straight into his eyes. Her answer was one word, spoken with such conviction it sent chills down his spine. "Hunger." Tom sat back, stunned. He had trained champions for decades, but he knew instantly this girl was different. Meanwhile, on the other side of the gym, the champion laughed louder, mocking the girl's worn-out sneakers for the cameras. But a few of the more seasoned fighters in the room were no longer laughing. They were watching closely now, sensing the storm that was coming. While the champion filmed herself for her followers, laughing and mocking, the girl found a quiet corner of the gym. She sat down on the floor, leaned against the wall, and closed her eyes. Slowly, her breathing steadied. Deep inhales, controlled exhales. It was as if the noise of the crowd and the echo of laughter had faded away. Memories flickered in her mind. Hot streets back home, the smell of street food her mother cooked, the weight of long days cleaning, the sting of fists from fights she never wanted but couldn't avoid. Those memories didn't weaken her, they fueled her. The champion's voice cut through the air. "Look at her shoes! She probably learned to fight from YouTube." Laughter followed, sharp and cruel. But the girl didn't even open her eyes. Instead, she whispered to herself, barely audible, "They think I don't belong here. Tonight, they'll understand why I do." She stood and began stretching. Her arms moved in smooth arcs, her shoulders rolled effortlessly, her knees bent and straightened in perfect rhythm. Every motion was efficient, natural, practiced. A few fighters watching nearby exchanged uneasy glances. "Did you see that?" one whispered. "Yeah, those aren't beginner's moves." Tom noticed it too. He felt that strange chill again, the same one he had felt standing ringside before, witnessing something historic. The girl tightened her gloves and threw a couple of light punches into the air. Thud, thud. The sound was sharp, clean, precise. Heads turned. A silence spread through parts of the crowd. Meanwhile, the champion laughed louder, recording yet another story for her fans. She had no idea that while she entertained, her opponent was sharpening the storm. Finally, the girl walked toward the ring. Step by step, she carried with her the weight of every doubt, every humiliation, every sacrifice. Her face didn't show fear, only calm determination. On one side stood the champion, confident, arrogant, surrounded by noise. On the other was the girl, silent, focused, carrying the kind of strength only life could teach. The ring lights glared down, casting sharp shadows across the canvas. The crowd pressed in close, their cell phones raised high, their whispers buzzing like static. What had started as a joke was now an event. Everyone wanted to see it, to record it, to witness the humiliation they thought was inevitable. The champion entered first, bouncing lightly on her toes, grinning wide. She flexed for the cameras, threw a few flashy combinations in the air, and winked at her friends outside the ropes. She was the picture of confidence, untouchable, radiant, arrogant. Then the girl stepped through the ropes. No flash, no theatrics. She ran her hands along the ropes as if greeting an old friend. Her face was calm, her eyes steady, her steps heavy with meaning. She wasn't here to play, she was here to prove. Tom stepped forward and raised his hand. 3 rounds. Keep it clean. It's sparring, nothing more. The crowd chuckled. They didn't believe a word of it. To them, this wasn't sparring. It was slaughter waiting to happen. The champion extended her glove with a mocking grin. "Don't worry, sweetheart. I'll try not to break you too fast." The girl touched gloves and answered quietly but firmly, "I never quit." The bell rang. The champion advanced quickly, light on her feet, firing jabs with playful ease. She expected the girl to flinch, to panic, to crumble. But the girl didn't. She shifted her weight, leaned just enough, blocked at the perfect angle. Her movements were small, efficient, and calm. The crowd murmured, "She's not panicking. Wait, did you see that slip?" The champion frowned, irritated by the lack of fear in her opponent's eyes. She threw a sharp cross, then a hook. Again, the girl dodged, her body moving like water around stone. "Stand still and fight, rookie!" the champion barked, frustration bleeding through her confidence. But the girl didn't answer. She wasn't there to play by the rules of expectation. She was there to fight.
Champion script. She was waiting, biding her time, her calmness more unsettling with every second that passed. The round wasn't even finished, but one thing was already clear. This fight wouldn't be the easy humiliation the champion had promised. Something was shifting, and the crowd could feel it. The first round pressed on, and the champion's confidence began to crack. She had expected her opponent to stumble, to break under pressure. Instead, every punch she threw hit air, or worse, was blocked with uncanny precision. Her smirk faded into a scowl. She swung harder, faster, trying to overwhelm the girl with sheer force. And then it happened. The champion launched a heavy right cross, certain it would connect. But the girl slipped left, smooth as a shadow, and fired a jab straight into the champion's face. Smack! The sound echoed through the gym like a whip crack. The crowd gasped in unison. "She hit her," someone shouted. "No way," another whispered. The champion staggered back a step, her eyes wide. She touched her cheek in disbelief. For the first time, she felt the sting of being hit by someone she had called a nobody. But the girl didn't celebrate. She didn't raise her arms or smile for the cameras. She simply reset her stance, breathing evenly, eyes focused, like she had done this 1,000 times before. Tom, watching from ringside, felt chills race down his spine. This wasn't luck. This was skill. Calculated, precise, unshakable. Enraged, the champion charged. Punch after punch rained down, hooks, crosses, uppercuts. But the girl moved like smoke, slipping, ducking, weaving, and every time she saw an opening, she answered with sharp counters. A jab to the ribs, a hook to the jaw, a straight down the middle. The crowd was no longer laughing. The jeers had turned to silence, broken only by gasps at each clean strike the girl landed. "Who is she?" someone murmured, eyes wide. The champion growled in frustration, sweat dripping down her face. "Fight me for real! Stop running!" But the truth was clear. The fight was no longer hers to control. Her arrogance had turned to desperation, and desperation was dangerous. The bell rang, ending the first round. The champion stomped back to her corner, chest heaving, fury burning in her eyes. The girl, she walked calmly to her stool, sitting down with the same steady breath she had carried from the start. She looked untouched, unshaken, ready. And the entire gym realized this wasn't a fluke. Something extraordinary was unfolding. The second round began with fire in the champion's eyes. Her pride was bleeding. She couldn't accept what had just happened, being touched, being made to look human in front of her crowd. Rage replaced reason. She exploded forward, fists flying, left, right, hook, uppercut. Her punches were wild, fast, fueled by desperation. The crowd roared, cheering her on. But it didn't take long to see the truth. Her technique was slipping. She wasn't fighting smart anymore. She was fighting angry. The girl, however, remained calm. Her feet glided over the canvas, her body weaving with precision. Every time the champion lunged, the girl sidestepped and answered with crisp counters. A jab to the ribs, a hook to the temple, a straight down the middle. The audience was now on edge, phones shaking in their hands. What had been expected as humiliation was turning into history. Gasps and shouts filled the room with each clean strike the girl landed. "Who is she?" someone yelled from the sidelines. But the champion couldn't. Her arms grew heavier, her breath came shorter, and sweat blurred her vision. And then the opening appeared. The champion threw a sloppy right hook, leaving her guard wide open. In that split second, the girl unleashed everything she had held back. Jab, cross, hook, uppercut. 4 punches in less than 3 seconds. Each one landed perfectly, echoing like thunder through the gym. The champion's legs wobbled, her eyes glazed, and then she crumbled. The sound of her body hitting the canvas silenced the room. For a moment, no one moved, no one breathed. And then chaos erupted. The crowd screamed. Some shouted in disbelief, others cheered wildly. Phones captured every angle, already sending the knockout across social media. The champion tried to rise, but her knees buckled. Her pride had fallen harder than her body. The girl stood tall, her chest rising and falling in steady breath. No taunt, no gloating, no arrogance, only quiet strength. Tom rushed into the ring, grabbed her wrist, and lifted it high. "Ladies and gentlemen, you've just seen a real fighter." The gym erupted. The story that was meant to end in humiliation had flipped completely. The arrogant had fallen. The gym was still buzzing with shouts and disbelief as the champion was helped out of the ring. Her once proud expression was gone, replaced by shock and shame. Every phone recording her fall felt like a knife cutting into her pride.
Had fallen, and everyone had seen it. In the center of the ring, the girl stood quietly. She didn't raise her arms in triumph. She didn't pose for cameras. She simply breathed, calm and steady. Her eyes lowered as if the victory wasn't about the crowd, but about herself. That night, the video exploded online. What the champion had planned as a humiliating spectacle turned into her own undoing. The internet mocked her arrogance. This is what happens when you underestimate someone. Talent fades, but hunger never dies. The queen has fallen to a storm called lightning. Within days, sponsors pulled their contracts. The champion's reputation collapsed. She became a meme, a cautionary tale of pride gone wrong. Meanwhile, the girl's life changed forever. Invitations poured in, interviews, sponsorships, offers to train with the best. But instead of chasing fame, she focused on something greater. With Tom's help, she started a program for kids like her, young fighters with nothing but hunger in their hearts and fire in their eyes. When asked by a journalist what her victory meant, she answered simply, "It was never about knocking her down. It was about proving that people like me belong here too. And if I open that door, others will walk through it." Her words resonated louder than the knockout itself. She wasn't just a fighter anymore. She was a symbol. The champion had lost more than a fight. She had lost her throne. The girl, once mocked for her old sneakers and borrowed gloves, had gained something much greater than fame. She had gained respect. And in that gym, on that day, everyone learned a lesson they would never forget. Arrogance falls, courage rises.